Good evening and welcome to the August 5th, 2015 Board of Education meeting. We've been in an executive session since 6 o'clock to discuss an individual personnel issue. Actually, since 5:30, sorry about that. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start with introductions. Christine?
Christine Beck,
Diane Stever.
Michael Cooper.
Jody Monroe,
Tom Douglas.
Matt Downey?
Charmaine Widgesinger.
Joanne Cunningham,
Lynn Lenhart.
and Judy Kehoe.
Second agenda item is the approval of the minutes of the July 7th organizational meeting, the July 16th special board meeting, and the July 27th special board meeting. We've been busy since last.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstention? That item carries. Next, we'll start with the superintendent's report. And before we begin that, I would like to acknowledge and thank Tom, Dr. Douglas, for his work for the past 3.5 years with the district. Tonight will be Dr. Douglas's last meeting with us. So as he moves on to Horsehead Central School District, to become superintendent there effective August 24th.
Yep.
So,
So, thank you, President Downey, members of the board. I just want to extend my thanks for the time working with you and knowing that as a collective, we brought Bethlehem to one of the highest places that it's been, and financially, finally, out of the dark ages back into at least some salvation, as you'll see later tonight with, unfortunately, the setting of one of the lower tax rates, but also with the restoration of the fund balance and the reserves that the district has. For my report, it's going to be very short and simple. It's really about coming to a wrap-up of a lot of our construction projects. As you can see, a lot of the field transitions are starting to occur. Kids are starting to actually get out on the field, even though the fences are down a little, for the district stadium, as well as there's been major work on the Delaware Avenue side that is hopefully coming to a close, because it seems like they're getting ready to bring in the sod to be able to put down in about 2 weeks, and that will make a major transformation of the field. So all the field work is starting to come to a sort of a termination point soon, and then the project itself is on time, on budget, and actually just a little bit under budget, that it will be ready for hopeful closeout somewhere between September and November. And it's good to restore the faith and confidence that all major scope work and details were included in this project and nothing was removed or cut. And I want to commend the board for 2.5 years ago, as well as Greg Nolte, his department, for making sure that we really monitored and moved this forward in a very progressive, quick, and expeditious manner, but also a very efficient manner that is very beneficial to the district. So thank everybody, and that will hopefully bring to a close some of my tenure here as well. And I wish everybody the best as we head off into a joint budget season together in the next year, as we probably have to link arm in arm to deal with some of the new legislation that's come our way from Albany, as I'll be able to say that being outside the region a little better. And the biggest thing is that, you know, the district is primed for its movement even higher in the academic fashion that it's always been known for, but also in the athletics and the arts that have also been a very strong point for the district. So I want to thank you, congratulate you, and now as I make my transition, I'll also still be a parent in the district, as my son will continue on until we can make a full transition upon the sale of our home. So, and that will probably happen over the next course of the year, at least. I'm hoping next month, but a year. So thank you very much for everything that you've done for the children of BC.
thank you, Tom.
Yep.
Next, we'll have the Board of Education report. I'd like to start by saying, as previously approved, we had special meetings on July 16th and July 27th, and very long meetings, deliberative meetings, to discuss how we move forward in this transition period. The board decided that we would go with an interim superintendent. We will be, in a little while, appointing Jody Monroe as the interim superintendent for the district for the year. It will give the board an opportunity to conduct a full search over the next year with an anticipated permanent replacement to take over next July 1. We are working with Chuck Diedrich, who is the Capital Region BOCES superintendent, to assist us in the search process. And as details come available, we have a website or a web page already out there that we will be posting information on the search process and how the community can provide us, the board, input on that process. So, anyone else who would like to start with anything else? Of course.
I always- Normally, I probably wouldn't have mentioned this, but I attended the Rural Schools Conference on weekend back towards the beginning of July. And I mentioned for two reasons. One, we're unfortunate in some ways. I don't think people realize sometimes with rural schools, not just lack of opportunities for their children, but also in minor things like APPR. I mean, if you're looking for somebody from another building in your district and you only have one building, and I'm not sure what you have in Warrensburg, too. Well, at least there's another building, but in some places, there's only one building, and you have to find somebody else to come in to do some of the observations. I mean, it's going to be very difficult, and again, it's just another example of legislators not looking at the implications of their decisions, the ramifications of it. But the other part I wanted to mention, too, is that I had the opportunity to speak, to talk casually with our new commissioner, Mary Ellen Elia, and I was very impressed with her. She seems to be a very good listener, and I'm optimistic as we're going forward that, she'll provide the leadership we need at the State Education Department. And the new regent, Beverly Outerkirk, who's from the northern area of the state, she was there also, and also very receptive and interested in doing a great job. So I guess at this point, I feel a sense of optimism going forth that way.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, Jermaine?
I wanted
Yes,
to
Christine.
thank the Green Team. They're later on in the agenda about donating revenues back to the recycling fund, because I was out in Long Island on vacation, and I was cooking dinner, and I had some recyclable items, and I said to my sister-in-law, "Where do you put these?" She goes, "Oh, you can just put them in the garbage." And they don't recycle like we do here. And I remember when I moved to the district 15 years ago, and my children were just starting in school, they're like, "Mom, you can't put that there. You need to put it in the recyclables." And just, it's such an important aspect of our community, the recycling, and it starts with our children. And I just wanted to thank them for continuing these efforts going forward, because it really starts with the kids. So, thank you.
Okay. Next, we'll have a presentation tonight. It is on the setting of the tax rates. Our school bills will be going out in September, and Judith Kehoe will be presenting to us the tax rate, what it has been, will be set at, and we'll be voting on that later on.
Stopwatch.
Good evening, everybody. As you know, this budget that we just adopted had one of the lowest increases in the tax levy in a long time, and fortunately, that was due to the large restoration of state aid that we had received. The 0.45% is consistent with the maximum allowable tax levy, and the actual rate increase that residents will see on their bills is about a 0.43%. It's just below the amount of the levy increase that we're going to get. It's interesting that with the tax cap that kicked in 2012, if you look to the pre-tax cap years, we had some relatively modest levy increases there as well, and I think that was more a reflection of the economy. But we've had a lot of changes over the years with the formula, with changes in the equalization rates, and then the actual fluctuations within the assessment levels between Bethlehem and New Scotland. We've seen some very varied percentages between the towns of Bethlehem and New Scotland residents. Because we've had 100% equalization rates in both towns over the last few years, you can see that we've had the same level of increases or decreases between both communities, which I think makes it simpler for everybody to understand their tax bill and the rate changes. 2014, remember, was the reval year, so even though the district received the 2.99% in additional tax dollars, the actual rates that people paid had decreased. So you'll see in one of the other slides where I show you the trending, with the tax rates that we have in place for this coming bills, they're even lower than they were 2 years prior. So that's a good news piece of information. If you look at these two charts, the top one shows you where we had projected the tax rates to be back in April. This was prior to the resolution of all of the tax certiorari and small claims assessments challenges that had been in place at the town. Based on the information that we had at the time, we expected about a 0.21% increase in the tax rates. Between then and now, in talking with the town of Bethlehem, there were far more reductions in assessed values than they had anticipated. And in fact, there was close to a $6 million reduction in assessed values. In looking at some of the changes in values that I had received from the town, we had 10 parcels that had reductions in excess of $100,000. One of them, the largest, was $440,000. So these are some pretty large reductions, and if you look at the number of parcels that had been challenged and these adjustments, it doesn't take too many before you get to the $6.1 million in reductions that we were seeing. So it's a little bit higher than we had anticipated back in April because of those reductions, but you're still looking at a 0.43% increase. So the tax rate per thousand will be 20.85 cents per thousand. There is one large pending tax certiorari for about $1.1 million, and for purposes of these calculations, I've assumed that is hitting because that should come into the town from the judge within the next week. If for some reason that does not come in before we run these bills, the actual tax rate will be slightly lower than what's stated on here. Remember that the authority that we have is to raise the amount of the tax levy that the board approved within the budget and as approved by the voters. So the rate is really a function of what is the legal assessed values as of the cutoff date when we generate those bills. So I'm expecting it to be the 20.85 cents, but it's possible it might be just under a quarter of a penny lower per thousand, depending on the timing of that court order. Okay. We also are preparing for the arrival of our independent auditors. They will be here on Monday, and just today we got the final numbers off the press. We are showing a $2.3 million surplus for this year. When we add that to the fund balance as of last year, that brings us up to $12.1 million. Part of the resolution that you'll be adopting tonight as you set the tax rates will specify the amounts in the various restricted reserves that are part of the fund balance. And these are all based on underlying calculations to support the values. So for instance, the workers' comp reserve is based on claims that are outstanding and that could be settled. Not in the favor of the district. That reserve is actually a little bit below that number. So there are similar calculations for each of those elements. The capital reserve, at the last meeting, we had talked about having that be closer to perhaps a $500,000 or $600,000 level based on higher revenues or a higher surplus than we had last projected. We are able to recommend an increase to $1.625 million for that reserve. And remember, that is new this year, and that is going to be subject to board approval, community approval, and it's nothing that's going to be spent immediately, but knowing that our assets wear out over time, it absolutely will be spent at some point in the future. The undesignated fund balance at $3.75 million puts us just below the 4% maximum that we are allowed to have by law. And then this year will be year 2 using BOCES for our tax collection service. We had a few bumps in the road last year with that process. We've had a number of meetings with BOCES over the time since then, and we are fairly confident that we have worked all of those issues out, and we're expecting a much smoother process this year. We will continue to either have payments mailed in to the P.O. Box, or alternatively, if people like to pay in person, they can no longer go to Town Hall, they can no longer come into the district offices, but you can go to Pioneer Bank. They have evening hours, they have Saturday hours, and they have 2 separate locations for everybody's convenience, so those payments can be made there as well. Stay tuned on the website. We will be updating instructions and some new features for residents as well. If anybody would like to pay with a credit card, we will have that ability this year, too. Okay, Dr. Douglas, you can turn off the stopwatch. How did I do?
You're over. That's okay.
Okay. Are there any questions?
I have one
Yes.
question. Why the increase in the ERS from 1.3 to 2.6? It seemed to be a significant increase over last year.
We had anticipated that that was going to go higher. That is one of the reserves that we can access more easily. We were concerned about fluctuations in the pension rates. Within the last month, we had noticed that because the system was going to be changing their actuarial assumptions for the long-term rate of return, that they expected those rates would go higher. So that really is our buffer. We can really be subject to large fluctuations in the budget as those pension rates change. So that reserve was recommended to be increased so that we can weather those larger fluctuations in the rates. Thank you.
That retirement, is that just ERS or is that TRS too?
ERS only.
Only.
The restricted portion of the reserves is limited by statute to ERS. It would be nice if they did TRS as well, because those rates fluctuate. That's on a legislative agenda that I think gets talked about over the years, but it has yet to be acted on.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And the other question, you said we now will be taking credit card payments?
Yes.
Will we be losing a fee, or how is that fee?
If a resident opts to pay by credit card, they are responsible for the convenience fee that is charged with that.
Just wanna make sure.
So it's a percentage of
Tax returns.
the bill. So no extra cost to us. It's just another option to try to make it easier.
Could you go back to the slide where it had the years? I think it was like the first or second slide. That one. Was that your first year, Dr. Douglas, 2012?
2012 is my
Yeah.
budget. 12, 13, 14, 15.
And that's the year we challenged the tax cap. is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes, the
Yeah.
2012,
I just want to
399.
appreciate, because I remember that year and the budget meetings before that year, and how incredibly long and painful they were. And as you make your exit, I just want to acknowledge your leadership during that year, encouraging and pushing the board to challenge that year, and just to recognize that that was a successful challenge, so.
No, I appreciate that, and it's one of the things I'm certainly proud of, and the district should be proud of, because over that 4-year time, taxes on average only rose less than 1% each of the 4 years.
Anyone else, any other
Other
questions?
questions?
Judy?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And don't forget, afterwards, we'll have to, as I said in the exec session, we have a document we all need to sign once we approve the tax rate. All right. At this time, the board would recognize any visitors who would like to address the board on any specific agenda item. Anyone wishing to do so? Okay. Finance, item number 7. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following finance action items A through H.
So moved.
First and second, any discussion?
Yeah.
It goes through J.
Oh, okay.
H
Well,
through
H is what is written here. Oh,
Oh,
H.
I and J, I and J.
Never mind.
Okay.
I just didn't want to.
Yep, thank you.
I
Thank you for
have
that
a
correction.
question.
As noted,
That's so
items
moved.
A through J. That's the first, and second. Just discussion?
My question is on the bids for the food service, the coffee, and the baked goods. It looks like we only sent out requests to 3 vendors. And I just wanted to know, and I know we put in a public announcement with a period of time in which people can respond. Why do we only send it to 3? Because if we're only getting, maybe 1 response back, it really limits us in accepting the only bid that we get. So I was just wondering why we don't expand the bidding.
The people who, or the companies to whom those bids are sent are those who are doing the supply of this within the region. I know Elisa Iser, as the food service director, is talking to the other food service directors, just trying to make sure she understands who is in that market and is willing to provide to the school district. So every effort is made to get as many companies interested in quoting, but sometimes they choose not to. But we also ask if there are limited quotes that come back, you use your judgment. You don't have to accept the quote, so if you're feeling it's something that is, they're taking advantage of being a limited numbers, we do not have to award it, and she would just make alternate serving choices if
But we
need
could
be.
expand the net to the original bids, right? If we wanted to send it to 6 vendors versus 3 vendors.
You can always go back out again, yes.
Thank you.
Just on the change orders, the Facilities Committee did review these with Dr. Douglas and Mr. Nolte, and had extensive discussion about them. I will mention that as a result of that discussion, one of the things that came up was the entranceway to the track, and a recommendation that we, in the future, somewhere part of this bond project, look to secure that entranceway by, through some kind of a, I forget how you described it there.
It's like a
The
finger
spiky
entrance gate.
revolving
Yeah.
door.
Not spikes, we don't want to.
No, but it's the law, somehow, I don't know what it's called,
Yeah.
but, so that did come up in terms of protecting the investment of the district. And also, I just have a question. At what point, as we're starting to close down the work, will the board receive a list of projects that would be recommended by the district for the remaining money that's left in the bond?
Yeah, I think that piece should be coming at the next board meeting, and then there will still be monies left over, but I would say, once the projects are identified at that point, the remaining monies be left at the discretion of the Director of Operations and Maintenance for unknowns things and items within the construction scope and things that will aid in the district's rejuvenation, just because of the fact we have brought every change order and credit back, that it would allow him to do some necessary items that are not necessarily major projects, but are in need for the district with the remaining funds, as long as it doesn't exceed the total approved budget amount.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, that item carries. Item number 8, professional personnel, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following instructional staff action items, A
Well,
through.
approving the rescinding of these,
That's
okay?
when I
approving
saw
the
rescind, I'm
rescinding.
like, wait a minute. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, approving the rescinding,
Okay, so
rescinding
it is worded right.
A through O.
A through, oh, okay.
That we already approved. I'll move
That we
that.
approved, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm-
Yes.
Maybe they
Maybe
just
I'll
get
just do it again,
confused.
'cause I'm like, okay.
Believe me, it has all the districts across the state confused, because everybody's doing this type of resolution, because the guidance wasn't there on how to appoint core teachers only with the new
All right, Let me
APPR.
reread that then, so we're all clear. It is recommended that the Board of Education rescind the following instructional staff action items A through O previously approved at the July 7, 2015 Board of Education meeting.
So moved.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? That item carries. Now going on.
It's a
for-
continued.
Continued. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following instructional staff action items A through, it actually goes through,
Oh,
Revised.
They're revised.
instructions.
I'm on page 7,
yeah, that's it.
A through O.
Yeah, see that?
Yeah.
Revised instructional, A through, it's HH, isn't it? It's A through HH.
No,
No, A through O.
no, because these are the ones from the last meeting.
So basically, they're the
Yeah,
revised.
there's 3 resolutions in
Oh,
here.
And then the next
Really
one.
confused Brittany here.
Then
It
on
won't
page-
be this way in the future.
All right. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following revised instructional staff action items A through O.
So moved.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay.
Now you're
Now,
on page 12 at the bottom.
well, okay, I see I missed that part when I was looking before. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following instructional staff action items A through GG.
So moved.
That's the first and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I would note that item number GG is the appointment of Jody Monroe as our interim superintendent. And also, item number FF is for the appointment of Kenneth Rizzo, who will be a new hall principal in the middle school, replacing Dave Zadorian, who was here. So Ken, if you'd like to stand and be acknowledged, would. And then, Jody, I'm ready, I'm looking out here like, okay, there's Jody.
Before we go to Jody, can I say, if hall principal, is that a
That's
new
a
job
new-
title
We changed it in the.
from the dean?
From the dean.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
As I stated, Jody is going to become the interim superintendent for the district effective August 24th. And so I've actually talked to our council, and we can actually swear her in tonight with an effective date of August 24th. So we will,
That way you
Why
don't
we
have to hold
vote-
another
why don't we
meeting.
vote for-
oh, I thought we did vote.
No,
That
no.
was HH.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And we went through
Oh, I'm
HH.
sorry.
Okay, so
Okay. So- Okay,
I just want to make sure we vote for
yeah,
all these
because
people.
it did say GG, right? Yeah, no. Now-
HH.
All right. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the following item HH.
So moved.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? That carries? Okay. Now we'll do the swear.
Okay.
Right here, please. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge, according to the best of my ability,
and I will faithfully discharge, according to the best of my ability,
the duties of the office of
the duties of the office of
interim superintendent of schools.
interim superintendent of schools.
Congratulations. Would you like to say a few words?
I would just like to thank the board, thank the community, all the staff here who supported me. This is going on my 11th year in the district, and it's really an honor to work here. It's just a fabulous district. I'd also like to thank my husband and my sister. If you can't tell, it's my sister. For coming down this evening and supporting me, and Kevin for coming to a lot of events and likely many more, and my sister who's also she's an elementary principal, so we share stories and get things out. So thank you to everyone. I'm really honored to be in this position, and I thank the board for their support.
Just don't send her to meetings because.
Well, that's the joy.
It does get confusing.
We
Okay.
can try and see if you pick up on it or not.
I don't think we would.
You sound like there's a, no, you look enough
I'm not, yeah.
different enough.
Yeah, but I was
But
at,
the
I was
voices
at a
look-
little conference a couple of years ago, and I went up to her thinking it was Jody. I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, Jody, you're here. I didn't know you were coming." Well, obviously, she wasn't coming.
Yeah, I'm just a couple minutes older and a little bit wiser than
Oh,
They do sound.
Okay, item number 9, support personnel. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following support staff action items A through C.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any abstention? That item carries. Item number 10, correspondence for action. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following correspondence action items A through B.
So moved.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Item number 11, recognition of visitors. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board on a non-agenda item? And and if you could state your name for being.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Benicia, the president of the Bethlehem Central Athletic Association, and I just want to join the chorus here tonight, thanking Dr. Douglas for his tireless service, his enthusiastic partnership with us. Without his support, without his dedication, we would not have achieved any of the things that we have achieved in the last 3 years that I've been serving in this capacity. I'd like to congratulate the board for making an outstanding appointment here this evening of an interim superintendent, and thank Jody Monroe for accepting that appointment, and we look forward to working very closely with you in the coming weeks and months as well. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ken.
I actually have a question. It goes back, and it doesn't affect the vote, but we were going so quickly, I didn't get a chance to ask. On item 9C, 1, it says subattendant as attendant. What does that mean? Sorry, it's on page 19. See where it says there's a name under C1? It says subattendant as attendant. What,
Maybe they're subbing as an attendant.
Yeah,
It's not
this is
permanent.
for
Oh, okay, I
the
got it.
extended school year program. So this person had not been appointed to work
Okay.
in the program, and she's a sub, so.
I saw it more as
Yeah.
sub as under as opposed to sub as substitute. That's why it
Yeah.
threw me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, moving on, future meetings. The board will be having a self-assessment board retreat on August 30th, I think we finally decided on that date. Okay. And we do not plan on being in public session after that or anything, so. The next public meeting after that is Wednesday, September 2nd, 7 PM here with an anticipated 6 PM executive session start. Then the next one after that is Wednesday, September 16th, again, a 6 PM executive session with a 7 PM public meeting beginning. There is no need for us to go into executive session this evening. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.